guys, welcome back to the Sisterish Show. It's your favorite hosts, Jackie and Athena. And today we are going to be talking about one of, I think, the coolest things about having an older sister and having such a big age gap between us, which is all of the things that I'm living through now. Jackie's been there, done that. And I think it's really cool to hear someone's perspective inside of the story of someone who's lived through all these experiences that I'm going through now, and just hearing what advice, you would give to yourself when you were my age and what things you wish someone had told you. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say, and I think it'll help just me to understand things as well as other people my age to hear so that maybe they can avoid making some mistakes in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was asked the question last week. I went on a good friend of mine's podcast, and at the end of it, she asked me if there was any advice I would give to my 20-year-old self. And I thought, this is such a good topic for an entire podcast episode. And so I just told Athena, I can't teleport back to being 20. I wouldn't want to be 20 ever again. I'm not one of those people that lives in the past. I believe my best years have not happened yet, but I have a lot of wisdom that I want to share what I would tell my 20-year-old self to my sister who's 20. And then y'all get to listen because you are part of the sisterhood. So Athena, cut me off if you feel like you need to. I do want you to ask me questions if they come up, but I have some notes here and I'm just going to get right on into it.
Beautiful.
So one of the number one things that got me super emotional, actually, when I answered this question last week was if I could tell my 20-year-old self anything right now and just kind of like drop this affirmation or kind of like teleport to her and show her how hot we are in our 30s, it would be trust yourself. This is something that I know within Christian communities, it can sound like it's sinful and we should only be trusting, those in power and our parents. Of course, always trusting God. But I've really come full circle with that phrase of trusting myself because now at 35 years old, I can look back at all these moments in my life where I did trust myself. And every single time I didn't trust myself, it just led to problems. And that doesn't mean that when you trust yourself, Athena, at 20, you get it right every time. And I'm going to cover that. But it basically is just like that intuition that God gives us, right? That intuition will turn into your mother's intuition for your cub. And my biggest thing with trusting myself at your age was I was so concerned with, believe it or not, what everyone was going to say. How were my parents going to feel about this? And I just would want to tell you, I want to tell our listeners, I want to tell myself, drown out all outside noise. Take a deep breath. And what would a Jackie that trusts herself, how would she respond to XYZ? And so you, Athena, right now, you might be going through, things in your personal life, things in your workplace. Maybe you have a big life change happening. But you, in those moments, you can cut that out if you want. In those moments, it was pretty funny. I know. In those moments, though, if you could really hold space for you and trust yourself, how would Athena, an Athena who trusts herself, and the last 20 years of decisions you've made, good and bad, how would she show up? And that mentality is something that's really helped me this year. Even though I haven't trusted myself perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that I feel like when I talk to people about that idea, I think that especially for people my age, when you're in that like transition of maybe living or maybe you're used to, like, let's say going to church or a certain school or your family or your child, like your high school friends and stuff like that, those few years of like changing from like your child you to your adult you, I feel like is obviously a really scary time. And I think that it's hard for people to grasp the concept of like what's actually best for me. So,
Right.
what would you say? I guess like the biggest thing I feel like I hear, at least people my age, I'm 20, I feel like it's that fear of when you like leave your parents' house or you leave, your the church you went to your whole life. Like, what do you feel like you would say to those people that have that fear of like, what if I'm making the wrong decision, or like what if I'm gonna like disappoint my parents and things like that? I feel like financially even people get very like scared to be uncomfortable, and that thought of like, oh well, I have to do this because my parents are paying for my school or they're providing me with a
Right.
roof over my head. Like, what would you say to someone who has that way of thinking when you're so young?
Well, it goes back to the other episodes that we've done, and it's, your comfort zone is the number one dream killer. And I can say with all my wisdom, of all these years I've been here. Honestly, though, I'm kidding when I say that. I'm so proud to be turning 36 in a couple weeks, but you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. So whether it's jumping out of an airplane or it's, taking on a job opportunity that scares the shit out of you, I would say do it. And even if you fall flat on your face, these are lessons. I can
Yeah.
look back on my life and, I am so blessed that my husband, which I'm going to touch on, another word of advice for you about your future husband, but when I was 20, I was with him, which that I know is not like the norm for a lot of people. And we made so many decisions based off of what people would say and what society, what my parents, what his parents would want for us. And I'm talking about like health choices and our engagement, birthdays, everything, every single thing. And I'm going to say, like, do not mistake my healthy boundaries as disrespect. Boundaries protect relationships.
And I think that I'm happy that that is a lesson that, I mean, I was always like the rebellious kid. So I feel like maybe it was bad when I was young, but I'm really happy that I'm that way now, because I don't just do things because it's the way, or, the normal way of doing things, or the way that certain people want me to do things. Like, there's a reason behind everything I do. And I'm very confident in all the decisions I make. And I think that's just an important way that you need to make decisions, or else, I mean, there's no one else to blame but yourself.
Yeah. And, so what if you fall? You get back up. If you trust
Yeah.
yourself and trusting yourself led to pain or it led to something that you wouldn't do again, these are lessons in your core memory bank that will help you and make you a stronger woman in the future. I just wish that I had a little more of your personality, honestly, when I was 20. Like, you and I are cut from the same fold. Whenever Sean sees us together, he's like, you guys are too much alike, but you're 20 and I'm
Twinsies.
35.
Yeah.
So it's like you are light years ahead of me. And that is the beauty of I get to watch in you is like that true family and true people in your circles that want to see you win. We want you to go higher, make more money, you know, like my
Yeah.
children, my future daughter-in-laws, your future children one day. Like, I want my people to go higher and further than I ever could. And I want them to stand on my shoulders to get there. And
Yeah.
so I'm
I
just
love
so
that.
proud of you. And,
Thanks.
at 20, I didn't trust myself. I definitely didn't
Yeah.
trust myself. And I was constantly thinking of what others will think. And I only really found that trust in myself, through terrible trials with my son. And in my 30s, really, I stepped into my power. And it's been epic.
I love that. I love that so much.
So the second thing that is kind of new to Sean and I, and it's not going to make sense when I say it to you right now because you don't have six people that are your core six. But Sean and I have really worked hard on this core six mentality. And I don't know if someone already made this into like an actual technique. If they haven't, I didn't trademark it yet, so you can go ahead and steal it. But for you at 20, I'm going to say make it your core two. And your core two is going to be you and Joey. So if you're
Yeah.
20 years old and you're listening to this and you have someone in your life, a boyfriend, or it could be your roommate, whatever it is, make decisions based off of your core six. So I'm going to talk to me, but you'll get it when I say your core two. So at 20, I was engaged to Sean. And what I wish I knew, or again, this kind of ties into trusting myself, was when we were making moves when I was 19, we left New Jersey and we drove down to South Carolina, and we were the first ones in our family to do it. And I had all this noise and things going on in my life. And looking back on my 20s, for the most part, we didn't focus in on our core 6, our core 2, our core 3 when we had Yanni, our core 4. It went back again to everyone outside of our engagement, everyone outside of our home because we live together. And now, as I'm 35 years old and been married for almost 14 years, we have really honed in on our core 6. I'm not having any more children. When we made this decision to come here to the Keys, Athena, we didn't tell anyone. Like, we told you, okay? But like,
Yeah.
let me rephrase that. We didn't ask anyone's opinion. I can look back to my wedding specifically, and every move I made had way too many hands in the pot. Mother-in-law, other mother-in-law,
Yeah.
grandmother, other grandmother, mom, stepmom, yaya, cousin. What will they think? What
Too
color do you
many.
like? I literally asked and took like a poll, 20-year-old Jackie. And I'm like, guys, what do
Stop.
you want the color to be?
No.
And I had like different oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
Like, when you get
I think
married,
when I'm
I
a
will be
bride, I
on your
think people
show.
are going to
Like,
hate me. When
no,
I'm a
that's
bride, I
fine.
think people will hate me because I'm going to literally, the only things, like, I've actually seen people do this, like, they'll send like a Google form to like their bridesmaids and be like, how much are you willing to like spend on this, or like whatever, like things
Yeah.
like that. But I will be sending a PowerPoint to everyone in my bridal party and like, this is what you're doing. And if you
Yeah.
don't like it, you can leave. Like, this is
Yeah.
my
Or
wedding.
don't
And when
be in
it's
the
your
wedding.
wedding,
Right.
I will bow down to you and it's your day. But when it's my
Yeah.
day, like, you better listen or get out.
No, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of sisterhood, is like, I will be that devil on your shoulder for this moment of your life. Like, I don't want to
Oh,
say obviously I'm
yeah.
the devil, but like, if anyone tries to mess with my little sister's wedding, like,
No.
we're going to have a problem. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I will constantly be staring at you and looking in your soul and making sure, whether it's like after we leave the dress shop, or it's when
Yeah.
you're planning your shower or whatever, like, I'm going to check in with you, because I wish
Yeah.
I had a big sister in these moments.
And I think that once you do start entering that age of like, maybe you're looking to like be with someone, or you start having kids and stuff like that, I think it is really important to evaluate all the people in your life and seeing like, who am I going to take into account when I am making these big decisions, career changes, just life changes, who you're going to have kids with, like all these things is a very big deal. And I don't know, like when you're kind of past that point of like just playing around with people and like you get to the point where like you do want to be more serious, I think it's really important to evaluate and make sure that you're with someone that is worth your time, because I don't want to
Yeah.
waste my time, and no one wants their time wasted. But if you don't almost like vet people properly, like they'll slip right through.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really
Yeah.
important.
I can speak
Yeah.
on
You
on that
They'll
for
slip
sure.
right through.
Those narcissists, they leech on, and before you know it, you're screwed. Okay.
Nope.
This is the
Yeah.
perfect time to segue into my advice number 3, and that is marry your best friend. If I could talk to my 20-year-old self, I would say, make sure you marry your best friend. When you have a relationship that is founded on looks alone, it just is not going to work out for you. I'm actually in that era of my life where I have seen people, friends, I'm at their wedding and then they get divorced, and it's so sad. And I'm thankful that I have not walked that path, and I'm not judging people that,
No.
there's so many different circumstances in marriages and all that. But I really can tell you that I know, and I would tell my 20-year-old self this: if you marry your best friend, that is so important. And I'm really glad that, even though I didn't even know how to trust myself at 20, that I did. And I got engaged younger than most people would. And we had babies younger than most people would. And I have zero regrets. And the thing about that too is also when you marry your best friend Athena, so obviously I'm talking to you, is you don't get married. People look at Sean and I's relationship and they're like, how did you just like get this guy? Like, look at him right off the mold here. He's just like got tattoos and muscles and he doesn't drink and, you know, he helps out and cooks. Like, they just come out of the market like that. And I'm holding my coconut water
I
to show
wish they
you. Like,
did. I wish
it's
they
just
did.
not, it's just not how it works. When I married
Mm-mm.
Sean, he was a boy. When I dated Sean, he was a boy and he had
Mm-hmm.
addiction problems and trauma. And so when you come together and you become one, if the foundation is best friend, you get this unique opportunity. They don't come off like this.
They don't.
You get this opportunity though to hold space for the other versions of your spouse. Okay. So I wasn't always this hot. Let me do like a little hair flip, right? There was like seasons in our marriage where I looked like a Karen and I dressed like a Karen. I'm sorry if a Karen is listening, but you get the idea. And there were, you know, as we matured and grew in our own convictions before God, because our faith is important to us, and we searched scripture, we didn't take on what we were taught by parentals or the person in our church sort of say. We searched scriptures ourselves. We found
Yeah.
what we thought to be true. And, you know, they don't come off the mold perfectly done. And if you're constantly evolving and constantly growing, which is the purpose of our podcast, is being the best version of ourselves, then you're going to have to fall in love with like 50 different versions of your spouse.
Yeah. I think that that's one thing with dating someone so young, which actually, like, I feel like relationship content is something that I really want to talk about a lot more because I think that I have a really good perspective in that. So I think that not everyone is cut out to like
No.
like marry or even be in a long-term relationship with someone that they met in high
Yeah.
school. Actually, I would probably say in most cases it's probably not a good idea
Yeah.
to
It's toxic usually.
yeah, usually. And I think that the few cases of people I know, obviously you and like a handful of people where it does work, I think it's a beautiful and amazing thing. And I think that there's actually like it's
It's
very interesting because it takes a certain type of people to be able to make that happen on both ends, especially considering that it's not your fault if the person you fell in love with 4 years ago is not the same. Like if they're not keeping
right.
up with you and they're not evolving and
Right.
growing and changing with you, like that, like you are not entitled to, stay there. Obviously, if you're decided to get married and then realize that, that's a
Right.
separate
Yeah.
situation.
No,
But
it's a different podcast episode, but
yes, but I think that there is a beauty in being able to somehow meet someone, fall in love, and be able to stay with someone that long through such big
yeah.
life changes. And I think it's really cool how we get to have that experience. I think that with
Well, I think this
like
is the part
men,
where I cut you off though, and you tell the listeners that you're literally with your high school sweetheart because they don't know that.
yes. Yeah, so we've been dating for this December, which is in 2 months, will be 6 years, I believe.
Yeah. And
Six
like in your
years.
day and age,
Yeah.
that's
6 years.
like 50 years in like
Yeah.
normal time.
And right. So I think that there's a lot of things we've gone through and a lot of things that were set up to not even make us survive that we did. And I think that it's really cool and unique. But I
Mhm.
think that if you are a woman who has something to contribute, that a lot of guys automatically kind of like shy away from that. And I think that it's really important to find someone that you guys really complement each other. And I think once you
Yeah.
find that person and you guys are able to be your own identities but make each other better, it's like the most beautiful thing. And I hope everyone who's listening has either experienced this or is able to experience this. Like it is so cool to be able to grow with someone
Oh my gosh,
individually
yes.
and together.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's bonus for us that we were able to like literally grow as kids basically into
Mhm.
adults slowly, and I just became
Yeah.
an adult a year and a half ago. But I think it's like a really unique experience, and I really can't imagine like not having like that person. And I think
Yeah.
that once you've experienced it, you get it. Like every decision and thing you make, you think about, okay, what is this going to do for us?
There's nothing, only high school sweethearts will get this. And I'm sorry, you're just not in this club if you don't get it. But it's like, I literally am 30, going to be 36 in 2 weeks. And Sean has known me and dated me since I was 15
Longer than
years
I've been
old.
alive.
Yes. So when we went through addiction 1, 2, 3 times on his side with him, and you go through family issues, and you go through growth, and you go through pain, and you go through selling everything you own and doing this crazy thing, which we need to do a whole podcast episode on literally how hard it's been this year. But like, he just gets me. You know, you only get so
Yeah.
many people that can look at you. And I would say you're another one of those people in my life that I'm so thankful for, but this is not the advice I'm giving, is, you know, and then when you segue into having babies together, when two best
Yeah.
friends have kids together and they see you at your worst, I mean, literally, it's like he could just look at me and there could be millions of people there and I'm
Yeah.
safe. I'm home. It's
I,
like when you shared that
yeah.
TikTok the other day where it's like it's so sexy to just turn your mind off.
Yeah.
Boo, I don't have a mind when I'm around my man. Like
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
like,
And I think like for me, a very big deal is like I want my kids to know their parents are in love. I think that honestly, like if you're not in love with your partner, like you shouldn't even be having kids. Like why? Because I think that it's honestly kind of cruel to raise kids in that type of environment, but that's a
it's a
whole
bad
other
example is what it
sitch.
is.
But
Yeah.
I just think
Yeah.
that like I think that being able to like I cannot stand couples that like don't like each other. Like why are you dating? I don't know. Like I just feel like I genuinely there's literally no one else that I would rather spend like my time with. Like I love my friends and my friends are probably listening to this and like I love all of them to death and like it's different. It's not the same type of relationship. So it's I'm not even trying to compare it, but
Yeah.
if you feel like you need to go to your friends to like escape your boyfriend, like you're probably not dating the right man. I
Yeah.
genuinely love to be around him. I love to spend time with him. I love to go out. We love to do things together. We love to do nothing together. Like we actually enjoy each other's company and I think I couldn't imagine being with someone who I didn't even like, which I feel like a
Right.
lot of people are
Well,
in
that's when,
relationships
like we
where
said before, if you base a relationship on looks alone or
yeah,
money
no.
alone,
Well,
or, you know,
yeah,
my mom and dad like that person, then you're
no.
screwed.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Yeah, I
And I
completely
think that's
agree.
why divorce happens, by the way. I think that there's too much of that not trusting yourself, none of that
Mhm.
core two mentality. And you let other opinions and grass is greener over there and all this happen. Next
Yeah.
thing you know, like you are marrying that person. Yes. Are you
Yeah.
marrying their family? Absolutely. And you need to think through those things. And like you and I have had hard conversations about things like that with in-laws and whatever. But Sean and I have withstood so many storms that like I could
Yeah.
write 12 novels on with family bullshit and trauma and just you don't even know.
Yeah.
And the reason why, besides God, number one, the glue was that friendship.
Yeah.
We're just like you're saying, he is my person. And so maybe it's not your high school sweetheart, although it is a very unique opportunity to watch him go from boy to man to dad to boss to alpha. You know, like Sean didn't come off the mold, like I was saying before, how he is now. Here's the next one. You need to have standards. And all of
Yeah.
these lessons I would have told myself at 20, they all kind of like compound on each other. And it only
Yeah.
happened through freaking pain that I'm able to sit here with a smile on my face in the beautiful island of Marathon, Florida. Just, you know, you got to have standards. And my
Yeah.
standards led to the man I have today. And that's facts. Women in my life that are pathological narcissists and date losers, they don't have standards. And
No.
then they look at me like I'm a bitch because I have standards.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Like you're not going to play video games on a Tuesday. You're going to get off your ass and go throw the ball outside with my son. Yes, I've
yeah.
been known to say that. And if you
Yeah.
don't say that, I'm not like dissing video game players. My kids play video games, but you get what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
how
Whatever
did you
it
get
is
your
for
husband?
you. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get your husband to, you know, stop drinking? Well, drinking was leading to so many terrible things in our marriage. and I drew a hard line, and
Yeah.
I have a standard and a boundary, and it was
Yeah.
the alcohol or me, and make your choice.
Yeah.
And that's something that he made a choice, and he knows
And I
that
feel
moving
like a
forward
lot
in
of
our
people
marriage.
would be very scared to even say something like that. But I think that when it comes down to it, you have to sometimes, you have
Those
to
are not my
sometimes,
people. Those are not
yeah,
my people.
yeah.
Like, I'm
Like
sorry. Like,
you have to be able to have a voice and stand up for yourself in all relationships, because once you let it slide once, you pretty much, that's the end of it.
again, I have always, like, I literally had a friend tell me in the last 3 years that I'm too hard on my spouse. Not a friend anymore, obviously. I'm too hard on my spouse, and I'm just a bitch, and lighten up. And mind you, literally back to one of our episodes, if you wouldn't want to change places with that person, I just shut that shit right off. I took mm-hmm, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, sure. I didn't listen to that advice,
No.
and so
That's terrible
it is,
advice, by the way.
yeah, no,
whoever
obviously. I
gave
mean,
whoever gave that advice, clearly, I would assume you're probably divorced.
I didn't want to say it, but yes. So anyway, you get the point. And again, going back, and we're not hating on people that are divorced. We're not hating on people that aren't marrying their high school sweethearts, but have those standards
Yeah, I
and
think
carry those standards.
yeah, everyone has different ways of being in relationships, falling in love with people. Like, we're not here critiquing that or saying that there's a
No,
right or a wrong way, but um I think
I'm talking
someone,
to my 20-year-old self. So we're just having this
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. That's our cop out.
Yeah.
We're
See,
not
I'm
coming
just
for you
talking.
guys. We're coming for the Jackie
No.
from 15 years ago.
Yeah, we're not talking to a specific person that recently was in my life, like in the last 3 years. We're talking to me when I was 20.
Yeah.
No, but so marry your best friend, have the standards. And you want to know when the insert power couple is activated is when this happens. Do you think Sean, and I know you're Sean because he's known you since forever, literally held you when you were a baby. But do you not think that my husband is equally as tough on my ass? Do you think that
Yeah.
because I still have wine here and there that he's not like, yeah, I'm not really into that 2.0 version of what you did over there? Like, he tells me, and what happens is when you're friendship based and that couple, you are literally unstoppable. You are
Yeah.
freaking unstoppable. Which leads me to the next thing, which is prioritize your health now, Jackie, 20-year-old Jackie,
Mm-hmm.
20-year-old Athena. If you can't get your house in order, whether it be this temple and or your household, your core 2, your core 3, your core 4, your marriage, I don't want to do business with you. I'm sorry, I really don't think we should be friends. And you are not someone that I think, whether it's a cousin, a relative, a whatever, I'm not taking advice from you. So prioritize your health at 20. It's the biggest and best investment that you could ever have. And I would tell you that, which I already know
Yeah.
you do
And I
that.
think it's so crazy because people my age who are in college, I guess, like, it's like a joke, like the freshman 15 that you like gain when you
Yeah.
go to school. Like,
Yeah.
colleges are not, which I'm not saying it's
Set
like
up
a
for
blame
success.
on college, but college environment in general is not really set up for optimal health. I
Yeah.
think maybe the only thing that is good out of college is that you might walk a lot, things like that. But the way of life that is commonly accepted in a college environment is like obviously not healthy. So I think it's crazy because these are like years when you're supposed to be like developing into like the person that you're supposed to be. And I like find it so bizarre that like people
Yeah.
like say, get don't get enough sleep at night, are eating garbage food, are drinking, 4 times a week, are like doing all these things that we all know are obviously not the best for you, but I mean, it just accepted as what normal people our age
College.
do.
Yeah. And
Right.
then we throw them into society with adult jobs and
Right.
responsibilities.
With a 9 to 5 job where it's like you come home and you just want to sleep because you're so tired. You don't see the sun, you don't walk, you have to either wake up early or choose between eating dinner and working out, because by the time you get home
Right.
from work, it's 6 o'clock. Like, I think that there's a lot to say about the way our lives are not set up to be optimally healthy. And I think that that's one of the reasons that I think myself now is looking towards like the future, like when I want to, you know, get married or have a family or travel or whatever things like are on my list of things I want to do in the next 10 years. Like, I want to be able to financially have myself in a position where I'm able to prioritize my health in that way, because if I'm working 80 hours a week, I'm not going to be able to prioritize my health in that way. And maybe to some people that's not a priority to them. To me it is. So I want to make sure that I'm able to live a life where I have time to walk and be outside and eat good food and afford to eat the food I want and afford to do the extra little things that to me are a big deal. And I
Yeah.
think that I know not everyone has that same goal or priority, and that's okay. For me, it's a really big deal. And I also couldn't be with someone that didn't think that was a big
Yeah.
deal. But
Yeah.
to me, it's one of those things where I get not everyone may relate, but I feel like that's one of those things that to me,
Non-negotiables.
right, non-negotiable. And I feel like when I've reached that point, I will, to me, that will be like one of the pinnacles of like success to me, is being
Yeah.
able to live that lifestyle of movement and health and nutrition and wellness and tr- treating my body with what it needs to be as best as it can.
Yeah, and to the 20-year-old out there, if this is a priority to you, that might mean that you have to move because you
Yeah.
live in the tundra. Like you got to really like make those decisions, because you're setting your future self up and your future spouse and then your children, and that's some scary shit. Athena, when I'm
Yeah.
35 looking around, where's the adult? Oh shit, it's me. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, because I could talk to you till I die,
I
is
know.
my last bit of advice. Keep going. Never give up. Keep going. It's like when they say, put your hair up, listen to gangster rap, have a good cry, have a glass of wine, scream in your pillow. Keep freaking going. Keep going when there's haters. Keep going when there's problems. Keep going when your bank account is fucking negative. You can bleep that out if you want. Keep going. You don't give up. You never, ever, 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 ever give up. Now, I know you. You're a Spartan woman. We're from Sparta, Greece. We don't give up. It's not in our DNA. But I know that there's people listening to me right now that they don't always feel like they want to keep going. Now, did I have times this year where I didn't want to get out of bed because I was so freaking down for things that I walked through this
Absolutely.
year?
Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely. But I will never, ever let that be my story. You
No.
will have a good cry. You will feel like shit. You might drink too much alcohol one day. Like when we talk about this health stuff, no one's perfect, okay? But
I
when
want you
you
guys to
not
know I'm literally about to go on a 3-day bender this weekend for Halloween. Like I cut out seed oils and like I'm working out and I'm getting my steps in, but I will
the
be
bender's
consuming.
coming.
The bender's coming this weekend, so I don't want anyone to feel like I'm like this like freaking
Yeah, no.
pinnacle
We
of
are all
like
about that
perfection.
80-20 life, 80-20,
Absolutely.
80-20. But
Absolutely.
never give up and you keep going. And the big thing with this last lesson that I want to tell the 20-year-olds or the 50-year-olds or the 60-year-olds listening is you are not your past. And so I have made so many mistakes in this last year and the year before that, in business, in friend circles, in family decisions, in health choices for my son, that if you dwell on that and you just focus on that, it just leads to a toxic situation. So sometimes deciding who you're going to be, Athena, when you're in your 30s is, who am I never going to be again? So
Mm-hmm.
when you're 20 years old and you make a mistake or you do something that you're not proud of, or you're 35 years old like me and I made a mistake and I made comments or said something that I'm not proud of, I can use those times in my life to mentor me, to make me better. And sometimes deciding where we're going and who we want to be in the future, our higher self, you hear people talk about all the time, is deciding who I'm never going to fucking be again. Hopefully kids aren't listening. But
Yeah.
that's sometimes what it looks like. And it also could be looking at family situations that are toxic that you're like, I am never going to do that. I am never going to do that. We are not going to do that. And you break those cycles, and it's really hard. But you have to forgive yourself and hold space for every single version of who you are. And you use the traumas to refine you, to help you be a better person, because that's ultimately the goal here. And you keep going, and you never give up. You never, ever give up, and be that person for someone. There will be a time, Athina, that you're going to look at me and I'm going to want to get the sharpest knife I have and kill someone for you. And I'm not going to, on the record, I'm not going to do that. But you might have to borrow my strength sometimes. And, sisters in your life, because your friends could be your sister too. Your mentor could be your sister. It's just a woman, really. We get to choose who our sisters are as we grow and evolve. But
That's
sometimes,
why we have this podcast.
Exactly. Sometimes my sister might have to borrow my strength. She might have to borrow my belief in her if she doesn't have it in herself. This year, I can tell you 20 conversations that my 19-year-old at the time sister was coaching her 35-year-old big sister that has 4 kids and has made $10 million in sales in the last, 5 years, where I'm like, tell me who I am again.
Yeah, text messages. Can you just remind me of who I am again? Because I've been in bed and I can't get up. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And then I go through it. I send her a paragraph. She's like, thank you, period. And then I don't hear from her for like 2 days.
Yeah. And, just use all of these moments. I know we joke a lot on here. And like, I saw the funniest thing. I was telling the boys about it. It's like, I don't want to go to therapy because I might not be as funny. I know that you and I, especially you, we use a lot of trauma and like nervousness. We laugh it off. We make jokes. And that's like our love language. Athina literally will laugh she's going to laugh at a funeral one day.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah. I will literally hear like the fun, like, or not the funniest. I will hear the most saddest thing.
Terrible.
And like, I just have to laugh. I just have to. I don't even know how else to respond. Like my mind just goes into like laugh to make it less awkward, or just like, I have to. I can't. Like someone could literally like, it could be anything. Someone could fall. I could see someone with like a bone sticking out of them, anything. And I'll just be like, having like, yeah.
One of the things my friend Hallie said, and she probably would be listening to this because I was on her podcast, instead of calling your haters or bad times of your life or your frenemy or your toxic family member, giving them those titles, replace that with your teachers. And I was like, I really can get down with that. Because when I look back in my life, and again, I'm just excited to see where God takes me in the future. And every year, that's why I always tell you, like, I want to give you so much hope for when you have your family and you're in your 30s. And like, I'm legit excited for my 40s. Like if this era has been like this, I can't even imagine how unstoppable I'll be, God willing, in 40s and 50s. But let's start replacing, because words are so powerful, whether it be a childhood trauma that happened or whatever, these are our teachers. And even that toxic hater is a teacher, because if you can take the lessons from it, then it's not in vain.
I love that. So
I think that's a great place to kind of close out. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I hope that this advice helps everyone listening and that you can learn from my mistakes and my traumas.
Yeah, I think that everything that you covered, I think, is a really good reminder of things that we always talk about, but like it's good to hear from a perspective of you actually what you would tell yourself, 15 years ago, like when you were just starting your life. I think that a lot of people my age do feel really lost. And I think that, again, that's literally why we even created a platform and a community, so that we can all feel like we're not alone, and you can feel like you have a sense of sisters who can just guide you through and give you what they wish they knew. And I'm super thankful to have you to even be able to formulate and come up with what things you would tell yourself. So I'm very thankful. And
well, don't make me get all like sappy.
I know not everyone's as fortunate as me, but that's why we exist.
Yeah, your big sister Jackie is here. So if you're not actually my DNA sister, welcome to the sisterhood.
If you have things that you feel you don't know what to do in a situation, you feel like you don't have anyone you can go to for advice or that you can talk to, like whether you have someone in your life that you can, or even if it's literally us, our DMs are always open. Our
Yeah,
message boxes
absolutely.
are always open. You can always reach out to us. We really want to create a community of feeling like you're not alone and knowing that you have other people that you can bounce ideas off of. Like, even if you have big life decisions or you have something on your mind, like, we are here. And that is our goal with our community, is to create that feeling of you have people to go to and you're not alone. And no question or idea that you have is stupid. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want to leave you guys with this week.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say you can sit with us. So
You
grab a
can sit
seat,
with
you
us at
baddie.
our big pink dining room table.
Oh yes. All right, well, we'll see you next week. Mwah.
We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.